Okay, so we are going to be talking about something very tragic and controversial that had recently happened. My channel is usually being used to talk about tarot and magic, but we really need to bring attention to this. We've all heard about the tragedy of Breonna Taylor, and we are all in agreement that this should have never happened and that she was not served justice. 5 years for what the police had done is just sickening. I understand the emotions that can come through this. I understand the outrage that people would feel. I understand how mad someone is. I understand the depression, the sadness, the anger, and the desire of justice. However, we must set our emotions aside and logically think through this, because if we think with our emotions, we will have some weak points in our arguments and we will not sound coherent. And we are, it's easier to mess up when you are very in a highly emotional state. So, we're going to be going in a bit of a timeline. The first of what we knew of this case was that these cops had a no knock warrant. They were investigating for drugs and because it was alleged that someone was in possession of them. So they barged into Breonna Taylor's house and they shot Breonna in bed, and we were told that this was the wrong house. Now, going on to the second story after the 5-year sentencing of the cop that was responsible for the shooting of Breonna Taylor, and he got charged for endangerment of property. And we're not going to fully get into it. But now the story is that Breonna Taylor used to date this person named Jamarcus Glover. Jamarcus Glover would use her address as a shipping place, and it was alleged that he may be potentially getting shipments of drugs to her house and her residence. And because of that, the police had a no-knock warrant to enter the place. And because it was alleged that she may be potentially related to this criminal, she was a casualty. And that Kenneth Walker was... I can't believe they tried doing this, but they tried saying that Kenneth Walker was... They were trying to charge him with attempted murder of the police. Thank God the Attorney General was competent and realized that, yeah, this was out of self-defense. Okay, so first off, we're going to go through what should have happened and a timeline. First off, there are 3 different murder degree charges. There is a first degree murder charge, second degree, and third degree. With the first degree murder charge, the killing would have to be premeditated. Like, you would have to plan it out step by step. Second degree murder charge is more of, it's a crime of passion. You weren't really thinking straight. You just did it in the heat of the moment. Third degree murder charge is if you involuntarily did it and you didn't really mean to do it. I was debating between whether or not the police should be charged with second degree or third degree, but based on the storyline, I'm going to be saying third degree because based on the story, the police barged in. Kenneth Walker grabbed a gun, shot the policeman in the leg, and the police responded by firing 5 times at Breonna Taylor when they were meaning to fire at Kenneth Walker. That is a horrible response, by the way. I don't understand how the police are poorly trained as to how to handle these situations. But Breonna Taylor was a casualty that was that it it wasn't meant to basically happen. And therefore it could be seen as involuntary. In in my personal opinion, I would opt for the second degree charge, but based on the court system and the laws, I would say that it would have been most likely that if it were a fair trial, they would have gotten a third degree murder charge. And next, we're going to go into the no barge warrant. With the no knock warrant, this means that the police can just barge in to your house and they don't have to announce their presence. And keep in mind when you're reading articles, the police did not have any body cams on. According to the story of the police, with the story of the police apparently did knock and say police were here. According to Kenneth Walker, they didn't hear the police knocking and they couldn't hear anything. Kenneth Walker was afraid that Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend was was the one who's being an intruder. He got the gun, shot at the police, and the police responded by firing 5 bullets at Breonna Taylor, who just walked in to the room to see what in the heck was going on because, it was extremely late at night. And we're all wondering, okay, so why is it legal for the police to have a no knock warrant? How can police legally barge into someone's house? And I was astonished, so I looked it up. The police are able to do this because there are not a lot of positive responses when it comes to the police. A lot of people tend to panic when it comes to the police. They may either try to escape, they may try to make the situation a lot worse, and because the person that the police may have been after may be some kind of threat and is someone who is known to run as fast as possible, that is why there is a no knock warrant. Next, we're going to be talking about the packaging allegations and Breonna Taylor's ex boyfriend. First off, we don't fully know the relationship between the two or how high leveled he was as a drug dealer. For all we know, she could have left because she found out about some of these things and no longer wanted to be involved. Because, she does have a new boyfriend, which is Kenneth Walker. And, okay, if it was alleged that packages were coming in for him under Breonna Taylor's address, well, for starters, under the Fourth Amendment, it is technically illegal for the police to go around snooping for your packages. But because of some other technicalities and the war on drugs, on special occasions, it may be legal in some circumstances that the police can intercept your mail and see what's in it. Also, if you don't use the USPS, FedEx and UPS, they also do tend to inspect suspicious looking packages. And Breonna Taylor her record is clean. She was going to be an EMT, and she has no record of any drug possession. And when the police raided their house, there was no evidence of any drugs being there. And they also arrested the guy who they were looking for while this unnecessary shooting happened. So, let's dissect what could have been done. What the media is trying to do when it comes to this case and when it comes to justification of Breonna Taylor's death is that because she was affiliated with a criminal, it ended up being justified because she could have allegedly been aiding him. And that's where the trap is. A lot of black deaths that were wrongfully caused by the police are being glossed over by the fact that there could have been a previous criminal charge, like a petty theft, on their record. And because of that criminal charge, this black person that was wrongfully shot by the police is seen as some kind of scumbag, and it ends up with people saying that, yeah, this sucks, but it's kind of justified because this person was a criminal. A criminal can mean a lot of things, and you have to see how high the offense is. If it's just some small level thievery, that that doesn't there's a reason why there's trials. You shouldn't be killed because you stole something. Something as little as traffic offenses can get you a criminal record. What's really, really sad is that a coworker of mine and I were talking, and he said that, if something bad happened to me, the police will likely just pull off the traffic offenses that I have and will call me a criminal. Traffic offenses can give you a record, and that is just sad. And there are many different levels of crimes. Many of these so called drug dealers with the war on drugs, they're not as high leveled as Escobar. And you'd also have to look at what type of drugs they're selling because marijuana is considered a drug. Yeah. You could be a drug dealer if you sell marijuana. And the media isn't very specific as to what kind of person this is. Not every single drug dealer is like Heisenberg on Breaking Bad or Escobar. These are just low, petty people on the streets who aren't really making a high impact when it comes to the war on drugs or when it comes to supplying people with drugs. They're petty criminals, and if you arrest them, you're not really taking out the drug ring. And and also we also forget about the fact that what we should be looking at when it comes to when a black person gets shot is, well, were they a free person currently? Because if you know what, if you did something bad and you served your time, you're no longer a criminal. And okay, what should have happened with Breonna Taylor is if they were looking for her ex boyfriend, they should have called her in and asked her if if she wanted to participate in an investigation looking for him, and they should have asked her if there was any drugs in that residence, and they could have easily gotten a warrant for arrest if she didn't comply to investigative questions about her ex-boyfriend. She would have most likely complied to it, cuz I'll be honest and I'll say that many people do hide things from their partner, and sometimes when you find out, typically there's sometimes you are an accomplice to it, and sometimes it just ends up making you leave, and sometimes you don't really know until the police asked you, hey, were you an accomplice to this person? What the media is trying to do with Breonna Taylor's case when it comes to the police being wrongful in this is, she doesn't have any criminal offenses and she doesn't deal drugs. There was none of that in her record. But because they wanted to cover up this blatant injustice, what they did was say, okay, they implied that she may have been aiding a criminal. And because she was affiliated and aiding a criminal, it was justified that she got shot. That's what the media is doing, and it is completely wrong to do that. Because just be okay, just because you know that person in some way, that doesn't mean you know all of their activities. They could be hiding it from you. And it may have been a struggle between their relationship, and she may have eventually had to leave. And plus, she had a new boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. And he rightfully used his Second Amendment to defend himself against the police that were barging into her house. She did not deserve to die. She doesn't deserve to have her name tarnished like this. And the police should have not been charged for just endangering the life of someone else and property. They literally shot a person. It may have been hard to charge them with second-degree murder, but they should have charged them with third-degree murder. Because literally, who someone who did not have any drugs, who had no record of drugs, was shot and killed. It is no longer endangering someone's life when someone literally fucking got shot. That is complete bullshit. That, oh, the police were just endangering someone's life. No, someone legitimately got killed because of the recklessness of that officer. And it is really hard to process all of that. And I completely understand why people are outraged and protests are sparking in Kentucky. But we must also look within ourselves, and we must also be coherent in our argument as to why this is wrong. Breonna Taylor is not responsible for the actions of her ex boyfriend. And considering he's her ex boyfriend, she no longer is aiding in whatever crime he may have been committing. I hope that there is justice. There is going to be justice for her. And, well, considering that cop may have put many people in prison, all I can say is that hopefully the people in prison do end up finding that cop and giving him the justice that we had hoped to see when it came to Breonna Taylor. It hurts that the actual justice system in place could not hold the police who are supposed to be there to protect us accountable for these things. But if we're acting the way we are now when it comes to being outraged, we're going to end up dividing more people And it's going to end up, how do I word it? The police are more likely going to gaslight us, and so are the politicians. If we aren't emotionally intact, we are more prone to being gaslit, and it just isn't going to look good on our behalf. We must stand united and point out why and how this is wrong, and we must beat them at their own game.